We go ahead and get started. All righty, welcome everybody. Good afternoon to our regular meeting, CSD, the Engineering Committee on this date, March the 8th. And this meeting is now called to order. Roll call.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Roberts is here. Any public comments for today, Jessica?
We do have one member that had joined, if you would like to, however, Smith is on mute, so.
Okay. All righty, so we can move on then? Okay, very good. C, minutes approval of February 8th, 2022 minutes. Chuck, any changes or comments?
No.
Okay, very good. Approved. All righty, moving on smartly to the Sandia Creek Via Vaquero culvert repair. Are you Mr. Hunt today, Mr.
I'm
South?
Mr. Hunt today, yes, this for the day. So Mr. Hunt unfortunately couldn't make it today. He had some pressing issues they had to take care of last second, so I apologize for that. But I assure you, I'm working with Dave all day with this, and I'm the one who puts the blood, sweat, and tears into these usually. So Dave just knows how to package it.
Oh, that's the evidence we've been seeing. Okay.
Yes. But no, so if Jessica, if you could bring up that presentation, that'll help a little bit here. All right, so the committee meeting, so if you could go to the next slide here, you'll see some pictures of Sandia Creek and Via Vaquero. And as you know, I don't know if you've been driving out there, but Sandia Creek has been open to traffic. I haven't heard any complaints at all yet. So it's a big success for the district. This project has been a long time coming and a lot of headaches and everything, but all in all, it was a great project once we got underway. Everything seemed to go well. Marietta did a great job as usual, and the last time I have nothing but good things to say about them. So I'm glad that they're able to get this job done as well as they have. So kudos to them. They did a fantastic job, with everybody and everything that came up. So, but just to give a summary of kind of some pictures I had up there. So this is actually the final Via Vaquero. The road looks a little dirty, but they cleaned all that off before we left the job site. But you can see there that they have the fence on top of the head wall now. The fence on the other side, all the fencing was up. And the big thing I wanted to show here is, they have everything's graded out, the roadway's done, but if you see that you can see like a greenish tint to some of the areas that they impacted. That's kind of a revegetation of the existing area, so that all the existing brush will kind of grow into that area. And go back to the way it was. Of course, it's going to take a little time, but that's just it's an erosion control measure to help with that. So now if you can go to the next slide. So this was then the additional slurry seal that they did. This is how you can see the nice clean roadway there. That's what it's going to look like with any future slurry seals that they do out here. You can see they have the roller compactor up there, which is what helps with that. But that's the additional limits that we added on Via Vaquero there to show that they went all the way up there. So we added that. If you would have looked at the pavement before that, you've seen what we call the alligator cracking and just a bunch of just mapping cracking and everything. So it was not in good condition. That's why they recommended that we go out there and do it as part of a job, and they were able to get that done perfectly from what I've seen. So I'm glad to see that. So that's Via Vaquero. If you go to the next slide. Now this is what they did in Sandia Creek and some of the extras. You can see they ripped out a portion of the roadway. This is what it looks like beforehand. This was areas that had needed the full remove and replace. That's what it looks like when they rip it up, just a couple inches just to get rid of all those cracks. And then if you go to the next slide, Jessica, you will see the final product there. Again, they clean all that roadway off, but that's, they paved everything in, got the center line striping in. This is over by the Anza Road, right at the start of the detour now, which those barricades are all gone now. So it's fully open to traffic, which I keep saying it, but it is a big relief for me to actually say it out loud. So I'm glad to hear it. So if you go to the next one. So this is the actual paving on the Sandia Creek and the project limits and all that they did. You see a nice clean roadway where there used to be a giant hole there now. So it's just a great feeling. And you can see they got the security fences on either side, so no one will go jumping down there or just keep people away from that. So that's kind of the final product right there. This is what we've all been hoping to see. So everything looks great right there. We got the center line striping, the RPMs and everything. So it's again a successful project. I'm just glad to see everything and open the traffic. And I don't know if anyone's heard anything about anyone who's driven on it now, but I've heard no complaints. Has everything been going?
Yeah, I've driven it and it looks beautiful.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's a good riding surface. I didn't notice any bumps or anything.
Good,
Yep,
good.
and that was the goal. So
I was looking to complain, but I just didn't find it.
that's what we're looking for. So,
The
but-
material looks really good too. I came by that on the way in.
okay, yeah, I planned on taking a road trip out there and seeing everything, so I'm hoping I can get a chance to do that. But no, that's Sandia Creek. I think that's my last picture for Sandia Creek there. If you could go, yeah, so we'll get into that later. I don't want to jump ahead on the agenda here.
How about our neighbors there? How are they feeling about the completion of our projects?
So, we had only one neighbor that did have, we went back and forth with us. It was Mr. Michael Donnelly. And, we were coordinating back and forth and I haven't, and after the last one, we took all his issues and we had the contractor take all of his, anything that he was trying to get, we worked that into the contract just to make sure that because if they were, we were working in his backyard basically. So there were items, that we had to take care of on that front.
Okay.
But as far as I know, everything went swimmingly, that everything he needed was taken care of. His concerns were addressed. So
Okay, good.
there should be no adverse impact that he should be have grounds to do anything on. So I think that one's successful, but he was the only true complaint that I knew about, but that's to be expected. We're working in people's backyards. It's going to be a minor inconvenience at first, but hopefully you can see the value the project brings to his area now. So
Right, absolutely.
I'm just glad that we were able to get in there. And
I did have a conversation maybe about last Thursday with Cody Close.
Okay,
And I think it would have come up if there was, that
Anything
wasn't
else lingering?
specifically, generally I opened with the neighbors happy, everybody happy, blah, blah, blah. And then he started in about Via Vaquero.
yes,
And there was a garden.
Right,
that
the Zen
guys-
garden. right,
And they were going down to, their expense or whatever.
Mhm.
On Friday, which was just last Friday, to deal with, put it back or
okay,
whatever.
right,
And today's Tuesday, I've heard nothing.
Okay.
And when we hung up, he said, I think, she'll be happy, we're in agreement with what we're gonna plan, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah. And so it sounds like things are
Okay.
quiet in that regard.
Yeah,
So-
well,
Okay.
we met with her before the project started to alert her what was gonna happen. Your fence is gonna come down for a while, then they're gonna build this structure and
Mhm.
everything. And she's like, well, what about my little plant over here? And what about the drip line over here? And Cody was just really good about like, don't
Okay.
worry, we'll take care of all of it. Whatever you want to go back in, we'll put it back in.
okay,
We'll make sure that you're happy and from Brian. So he was real good at the front end, letting her know, and then he's been following up, like Jim said,
Okay.
beautifully. So
Good.
They finished on Friday, actually, replacing all the plants and drip line and everything
Okay.
like that, so it's complete.
okay, good.
And she was thankful because he then mentioned, by the way, I'm your neighbor. I live right over there across the street. So I'm not gonna leave you guys in the lurch or do anything wrong here because
Come look
you
for
you
me.
can walk right over and complain. I don't want that to happen.
Right, well,
So,
good,
yeah, so
Okay,
he was very good with that.
okay, good.
that's just a good reflection of Marietta and how they did. how they
Yeah.
conducted their business.
Yeah, definitely. We want to make sure that we got some happy campers there. Well, that's good to hear. Are we going to be able to have any kind of closeout discussion with Marietta at the board meeting? Just,
I haven't gotten that organized yet,
okay,
but that's what you and I talked about.
yeah, right, yeah, okay,
So I'll-
yeah,
I'll-
it'd just
I'll
be a
have them come
nice,
down.
yeah,
I just need to figure out what to call
yeah,
it.
a little official closure.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have Todd here, but, he
Yeah,
can make
yeah.
it. Okay,
So I'll do that after this meeting.
Yeah, and the next step, the next month, is to do that notice of completion. Get all that filed with the county and then they get their retention payment back, that 10% that we would be held just in case something happened in
Right.
between, but we have to let the time pass before we can do that. But that's the final step and then that project will be in the books for the construction side and then onto the FEMA project closeout, so.
wow. It's only been how long?
3 years and.
Yes.
Okay, great. Oh, good. We're all smiling and laughing. This is great.
Yeah, FEMA picked up about $1 million more
Exactly.
of that.
Thank you.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
pretty nice.
Yeah.
Uncle Sam.
Yeah, well,
So,
it's pretty significant. I
Yeah,
mean, the
that's-
job is pretty significant, so. Okay, very good. I'm glad to hear that. All righty, and you're going to move on to Buena Vista?
Yep, and Buena Vista, so I've had a couple updates on this one, some concrete responses from the actual, the permitting agencies. So, they have both It's the Army Corps, the Regional Water Quality Board, and also the Fish and Wildlife. Army Corps and Regional Water Board are very closely tied together. So when when the Regional Board and CDFW both deemed the applications complete, that was done the end of February. So everything was complete. So the clock's been ticking since well before then. So that was the first milestone, is to get them to deem our application complete. So that was done around late February and February 24th, 23rd for both of them. So that's a perfect sign that everything's moving forward the same way it did when we submitted everything. So now we're still, that shows that we're still on pace for our springtime permits from what we've been told. So I don't see any, there's no adverse impact to that deadline. Everything we've been saying since the beginning is still on pace for that one. It should be around, they're actually on a ticking clock to get us responses by around mid to late April. So that's when we would get the final responses. So fingers crossed, everything goes well with that. But all the preliminary work we did should help with that final determination. And then after that, it's full speed ahead. As we've talked about in the past, we have a contractor on board. We're ready to put boots on the ground as soon as we get that environmental permit. So we're looking forward to that. And then it'll be in a couple of months after that, we'll be having the same happy discussion about Buena Vista as we just did on Sandia Creek. So we just gotta go through this environmental process and make sure it's done the right way. So.
Same contractor on that.
No, we do not have the same comp. They were not a little bit on this one. It's the name escapes me. Southland, yes. So we'll see how that works out.
Good experiences with them in the past.
So I haven't personally dealt with them, but I believe
They do
Dave
a
has
lot
in
of
the
work
past.
in Temecula.
We just haven't, yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
these projects you see, Rancho Cal and Diaz and some of those, it's them. So
Will the construction of this one be less time than Sandia Creek because of the?
I think there is a little less time. I believe it's only 45 where it was 60, but don't hold me to those deadlines exactly. I have to look at the exact contracts to remember the exact timeline. But yes, it should be. And again, the good thing about that one is Buena Vista is already closed, so it's not going to be any traffic control issues like we had on Via Vaquero. I wouldn't call that an issue, but just like trying to get everything figured out because there is an open roadway there. That makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker for construction when they don't have to worry about one lane open or one lane closed because it is already closed. So that's the silver lining of the road being closed, I guess. But no, we're on pace for everything there. So we'll just keep trucking along. And we're sending weekly emails to all the agencies so that they keep us on the top of the stack whenever they get there. But yeah, they kind of work on their own deadlines over there. So all we can do is push them and hope they're listening to us. But everything is in, nothing on our court right now. So that concludes me on Buena Vista.
Okay, moving on then, future roadway projects.
All right, and for this one, I actually have a few handouts, and this will go back to so this is kind of the last couple slides that I sent out. So I think here, there, and this just so you have something. This is going to be exactly what's shown on the screen here. So that we know. But so we created this map right here, which I have 4 copies of this for everybody. So we can hand that out because it might be hard to get those all on the table. So this map right here I created, it shows from the last meeting I showed the full repair cost based on the 2016 data. Based on our conversation at the last meeting, we wanted to update that to show the slurry cost of the entire district on roads that weren't touched. You'll see you have this the green and purple. Those are the recent projects that were done since our 2016 paper data. So anything that was done since that analysis that's shown on there. Anything before that would be captured in the pavement condition index. So we have a full, diagnostic of all the pavement since then. And so we know that these roads have been done. So this is kind of taken care of. And those PCIs are already been raised based on our recent slurry jobs. So the values you'll see here, which I know it's a little hard to read from far away, but that's the value for each street segment. That's the slurry cost of slurry, that entire segment. So you can see, there's still a lot of work to do. There'll always be work to do, but that's why we are here to fix these roads. But you can see we tallied up the remaining costs if we were to slurry the entire road right now. The remaining cost to do that would be around $8,687,000. So, as you can see,
is this the Caltrans slurry that we're using?
It's the type two, it's per the Green Book specifications, that's the same slurry that we've always used our had good experience on, so that's what we recommend on these.
But they're in the past and other places do not use, you are using the ultimate slurry. Okay, and if you look at it, I mean, that looks like an overlay, some of these photos we just looked at. And then there was, so in the past, and I don't know how far back, they used lesser expensive slurry. And they also did it the old way, which crack sealing first, okay? But now, if you look at when this slurry goes down, you don't even see the crack because it's got so much sand and oil. And it's a lot more expensive. But using that and doing what we're doing on the paver capital or the pavement management system or whatever, they put 7 years of life back into the road. And that's why a few years back, they kind of changed. And that was engineering committee at the time, Brady and Fisher, whatever, kind of concluded that we were doing overlays along Via Vaquero, but you didn't get any bang for your buck. You only went a mile, or whatever. And so they decided, and I think that's right when Hunt came in, why don't we try to just extend the life, because it was 38 million or something like that to repair every road if you overlaid it. But it's never going to happen. So let's fall back and see if we can do something, because these lines, the paint, I mean, that's safety. You know how you guys get the fogs and all
Right.
this stuff here?
Right.
You need to keep those streets painted and, well. So anyway, they kind of said, well, let's try one of these slurries, and we've done 2 now, right?
Yes, two.
And you go out there and you drive these streets and they almost look kind of new. And because you don't have to go crack sealing. And that came up, the last one person who'd been here a long time said, well, you're in a crack seal. We need to. Because what you were using before was paint like you buy at the hardware store.
Yeah, right.
For your driveway. I mean, this stuff is thick and it just sinks right into
Yeah, right.
the more oil you get in those cracks.
Yeah.
The better that works. So
Yeah, it's
anyway,
definitely got a higher crack tolerance. There's a certain level, of course, that anything can take, but it's greater than like a half to a quarter inch that we can do, which typically, you would, on the older slurries, you would have to seal everything and put tack coat down and everything. So, yeah, so it's definitely a better product, and it's gonna last. Otherwise, you're just throwing something on there, cracks will come right back through.
Right.
So this product, it's the type 2 slurry seal. It's done a great job for us in the past. We're still testing it over the time here in the district, but it's been tested well before us many times.
and it looks good to the public.
Yeah.
When you drive the roads, the ones that haven't been slurred, you really.
Yeah, difference. Yeah.
So
Okay.
the one thing that we're still, now you've inherited the situation. This slurry isn't cheap. We don't give very far with it. And we still don't have a funding source for the ultimate rehabilitation of these roads. And we're waiting on the gas tax.
Mhm.
That's gonna fix it.
Sure.
Maybe not as quick as we would like,
Well,
but $1 million extra a year just for that. That's huge. And so, anyway, I'm kind of bringing you up with the history of this. I suspected the same players were here now, 4 years later. Their recommendation would be forget the rehab until we get a funding source and keep going with the slurry kind of, or, those kinds of, or there are some repairs that need to be done, too. But as far as another mile of overlay, probably doesn't make sense. And then let's suppose we don't get gas tax. So now what are we gonna do? Well, there's ways to do that, because what you can do is do a 25-year plan. And basically get them to pass, you know, like we sell 20, $30 million worth of bonds. Which you wouldn't have to touch the streets for 25 years, as long as you adjust every street and put it on the tax bill. And then a lot of people will look at that and say, well, it's kind of a pay as you go. That's why people vote for these things. Because I'm only gonna be here 5 years or whatever. We'll let the guy who buys my property and the guy after him, let them pay for it instead of us. They're a hard sell to the public, but if gas tax doesn't go, we're gonna have to do
Yeah,
something.
it's an alternative.
And,
Without the gas tax, what's the annual available funds for this project, for these projects?
700 a year, and decline. And so periods of time right now. with
12,
high
14
inflation,
years to do this level of work with slurry without the gas tax.
Yeah, until,
And with the gas tax, about half of that or a little less. Yeah.
Yeah, at 1.7.
Right,
Take
yeah,
take
yeah.
about 5 years to get through it.
Presuming we don't have any
and the gas tax will
more
grow.
Sandia Creeks.
Yeah, they're disasters.
The
Yeah,
gas tax will grow.
right.
So unfortunately, the pot of funds that we have here, right now in our economic environment, where we're kind of heading into, this is the worst thing that could happen because, you know, we have 10% inflation, our $2 million budget and what that buys.
Yeah, right.
And we've all lived through inflation and how long it takes to bring it back under control. So it's he doesn't,
Yeah.
one doesn't remember the 70s. But we'll explain gas lines.
Those were not the long ones here, though. The long ones just as bad.
Yeah, so anyway, we gotta get that gas tax.
Well,
And, but we have to do something with our funds this summer.
right. In the
So,
meantime, yeah. Okay.
anyway,
But
that's
thank you.
just a little
Thank you.
history,
No, yeah.
since we have a new committee.
Yeah, so that's, so kind of, yeah, Jim definitely gave, the full ordeal on that, but, as you can see, it's a lot of money to spend at one time. We'll get through it, but what we can do now is kind of chip away at what we can do and use the budget that we have available to us. So, if you could go to the next slide. All right, so the first thing we want to discuss, we've been discussing this in the past, it's the detour route. So we've discussed wanting to slurry that entire area. That's been something that's been discussion. So that's, as you can see, that's the detour route right there. Buenos Campos, Sierra Rica, and De Anza. And if you could go to the next slide, Jessica. We to slurry seal that entire road. One thing that's going to help us, I don't want to take Dustin's shine here, but they did go out and do some patch repairs on that. So I'm sure Dustin's going to talk about that in the later. So I won't get too much into detail on that, but that's something that will help us.
You want to just jump in and tell what
Yeah.
happened this week?
We're gonna do that.
Okay.
Well, I had a slide for it, but anyways, obviously, we've had some serious potholing and alligatoring cracking that's occurred from that detour. So now that this road is open to rectify the situation as best as possible, we came back and did permanent repairs, permanent asphalt patching in two separate occasions. So that's complete now. They did about 2,135 square feet of patching, and I think it ended up being about 36 patches. But it definitely stabilized the road, and we don't have any more issues as far as potholes are concerned right now.
So the complaints that you were hearing from people who were out looking at the road, so that
Right.
was all been.
Been taken care of.
So it looks messy out there because you got patch,
Right.
all over. But in terms of structural integrity now, of the road, you're not gonna, hit holes and
Right.
blow out your tires or, anything like that. Those are all fixed.
Okay.
So we did contracts. We have each zone in the budget, there's money and it can not exceed 25,000. Well, it exceeded a little more, so we just did 2 maps of the detour route and did 2 17s separately, okay? So it just all get done.
Okay.
And that way, when it comes time for slurry, it's ready to go. And the people on the detour route see that we were given what we got finished. We did the rest of the shoot. So the only thing now is cosmetic. Just so you know, if you hear, oh, you didn't do my detour. Yeah, that's what you did. And it was only a week after
Right.
Sandy
That's
Creek
still
got it.
Are there any of the culvert repairs that you have in the plans that are following that route?
None on that route, no. Those are all in pretty good condition.
One thing too to keep in mind is during the detour, we've got over 2,000 cars a day going around the detour route. Now that we've opened back up, we're hoping that's going to significantly drop off. There's still going to be some that are going to want to go Cameron to Concho, and they may take Buenos Campos and stuff, or they may take Dianza to get over there, but that number should drop off, quite a bit. I'm expecting at least 50 to 70% traffic on the streets will go away, so that helps. Because
Right.
now they're not beating up the street.
Right.
As fast either.
And get back to the original issue at hand is, we build the arterial roads, which are the main roads like Sandia Creek. We build those with a thicker pavement. They're meant to take more traffic. Now we put all that traffic on the smaller roads to detour the roads that create extra impact on those roads. And that's why, they degrade it a little faster than it would typically do. But, so now, thanks to, Dustin patching it, you can see that the cost of slurry to detour route has gone down. It was, I forget the exact number, but it was somewhere close to 200K originally, but now with some of that patchwork has been done already, and they've mobilized the crews out there. That cost has come down, and now we were looking at that. The cost of slurry that entire detour route came out to around 143,000. So that would be the cost for that entire slurry, the entire segment to be slurried. So it'll be one uniform section now, instead of just seeing like, the Swiss cheese patching, which functionality wise, that's great. They took care of the big problems. You always like potholing, the alligator cracking. That's what your concern would be. But the slurry seal will make sure that whole road is sealed and ready to go. And then again, as Jim mentioned, that'll extend the life by another 7 years. So it's always good. Every time you slurry, you're getting an extra 7 years out of that roadway. So
The 34K that went into the patching, was it originally in the 200K?
that was originally in there, and cost, and there's also time savings, but it takes a little less, a couple of days off the paving time and more traffic control. So there's a little bit of cost that came out of that, but that's where we came to this final number right there to slurry the detour route.
Okay, so we're really talking 2 pots of money here. One is what he did, which is budget every year.
Yes.
And that reduces how much each zone has
Right,
and all that.
right.
And you'll see that in the budget for
Right.
2 months. So that 143, we're not double counting now, right? So his patching work.
Out is not in that cost.
So
Yeah.
what you're saying is that we went out to bid. You're estimating low bid would be 143 for slurry and paint.
That's good. Yes.
After the bid was done.
Yep. The
Yeah.
patching is helping. The patching.
That's what I thought he said, yeah. Yeah, right, yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if obviously we came out about 20K less here total than what had been originally budgeted. Was that because of the repairs being less money than anticipated, or the current estimate on the slurry being less?
I'm not sure if I'm following.
Okay, we had 200K in the beginning, that was
Yeah.
kind of the estimate that included the repairs.
Yeah.
We did the repairs for 34.
Yeah.
So,
Were you able to achieve a savings on repairs that you did? Or
Yeah, so the faster that we did it right now, obviously, with inflation, it's insane. Asphalt's actually going up almost 50 cents a day.
Yeah.
So it's astronomical. So the fact that we did it now, actually, presumably, if we did it over the next couple of months, it could have been closer to like $20 a square foot. We ended up doing it for about $17 a square foot. So it definitely saved money doing it faster than later, just because of that specifically. And obviously, there's mobilization as well, because every company costs mobilization, encountering different slurrying and all that stuff, so it kind of reduced that cost as well.
Yeah, so there's extra layers to it. They don't need to bring on another crew on this job. So I can see what you're saying, it's not a one-to-one. That cost went down exactly
Right.
30K. But there's other factors, kind of like the time extra time that they would spend, and extra time they would be mobilized on site.
What we're hidden a little bit is obviously we came out spending less money than we thought we would.
Right.
Let's figure out why and do some more of that.
That's the best way to do it, yeah. And sometimes, and Jim has seen this, there, as an engineer, we estimate the cost, but a lot of, sometimes that cost comes in a little bit lower. And that's why we add, the flexibility to add extra roadways, which we did that with the last slurry job. We just did that with Sandia Creek, where we added areas to it. So, when I give these estimates, they're opinions of probable cost, what we call them. We try to get it to what we've seen through recent
Right.
areas, but Duluth is much different than what you see 100 miles away. And sometimes costs come in low, sometimes costs come in high. So that's why we give ourselves that flexibility of, all right, this bid came in low, let's take advantage of this and throw as much as we can in there, as we did last year by adding all that striping in to stripe the entire district. So, it's not a science. I mean, I don't want to say it's not a science, but it's just seeing what the market's like and then just getting the best we can, the best bang for our buck out of that.
And Chuck, in the amount of time I've been here, it's like 5 years, these guys are always high, every time. So when I see 143.
All engineers are gonna put a contingency in.
Exactly. Yeah.
After a period of time, you calibrate.
Yeah, I'm starting to learn 143,
My-
125.
X-Boss had a 2.3 factor on me, so.
There you go.
Yeah, so we can be on the conservative side, but again, that just gives us the the flexibility to add more. So it's never going to waste. I don't want to think that it. So we'll always put everything we can to use. But that's the first aspect of this year's budget that I'm kind of trying to get that discussion out here today. And then if Jessica, you would go to the next slide. This is where I kind of broke everything down into the zones to kind of maximize our budget. Now, right now, I just came up with streets, if there's other streets that could be recommended or anything that anyone's heard, that they'd rather some streets be in there and some of these streets not be, that's, we're still open to flexibility on this, but right now I'm just kind of show you what but this is about $500,000 worth of slurry. That's what we would get out of that. And again, if there's a more priority area that someone knows about that they wanted us to take care of, we can change that and we can update these numbers. But the way that this was done, you can see the percentages that we're spending in each zone. We try to break it out that way. This is within 1 or 2% to the percentage breakdown that I was given by Dave on what we've done in the past. So that's how we typically kind of spread that throughout the districts based on the zones, based on the size of the zones, and just the typical money we spend on each one. But you can see there, I listed out each road segment and the limits of the roads that we're doing, and this matches completely with what's shown on here. So that's every cost that I got in there is not pulled from here. And all these costs, that's gonna be the cost, out of pocket for the district to do all these roads. So again, these roads are just kind of recommendations right now. Is what I would recommend to go with, just based on some analysis here. But again, it's not specifically the I guess the end all be all of the exact roads we're doing.
Yeah, it's a good starting point.
But this is just to show this is what we recommend this is what $500,000 of that is going to get you, plus the other for the detour route. And so the next slide will show you the summary of how we come up with that full budget.
So none of these include the detour route.
The detour route is not included in these.
Is that anticipated as an addition to this, or are we looking at not doing that in 2022?
No, that's going to be in addition. So that's all
Does this
part
add
of
up
it.
to what, 500?
So this is the 500.
This one is
500,
fine.
yes.
So that takes us to about
Yes.
650.
Yeah, and then that, maybe I should put the summary slide before, because if you look at my, if Jessica goes to the
Yeah.
next slide.
Yeah, right.
And I guess, yeah, so
There you go.
so there we
Yeah.
go. This is the simple,
The
the
overall.
numbers that makes everyone see
Well,
everything.
wait,
So
let's get rid of all that field inspection crap.
well, we could do that.
We could do 1,130.
And that, yeah, typically comes out to around like 12% of the total contract price. That's just the design services and everything. So as you can see, the original, the detour road is 143,000. The slurry field, the zone breakdown, which all the streets that I showed right there, that came out to about 500K in numbers. And then just the field inspection, design services, and construction management That's when, our inspectors were out there, our inspecting team is gonna be, has to be out there on site to make sure we're doing the work correctly. And then design services is just, us creating the plans and, us sending the project out to bid, all bid assistance and, engineering support during construction, just everything typically we would do during that. And the field inspection is when before we go out there, these numbers are all estimates. We have our certified asphalt inspector who goes out and checks every roadway basically and just, marks out areas like, no, this area, that's a dig out area. We need to do a full R&R in that area, remove and replace. And he'll check it out and see any field conditions like, map out our utilities or anything that might cause a problem on the job site so that we can incorporate that into the plan. So that's what that all takes into account. And based on my discussions with Dave, I think we're targeting around a $725,000 annual budget. So that's right there. That's what a $725,000 budget would look like for our 2022 year. Again, I want to emphasize, the roadways aren't set in stone or anything. If there's anything that, any recommendations that anyone has here on specific roads, I can always accommodate that. But this is just to kind of show you, hey, this is what it would look like if we were to have that $725,000 budget.
So the committee now can look at this. You've got maps for them to take home, right?
That's correct, yes.
And
Yeah.
so you think
You can
about
see.
it, talk to your
Yeah.
friends, neighbors, whatever. And then it would then go to the board as a recommendation. The board members may have,
Something to
comment.
add, yeah.
So the next step then would be some blessing of this by the whole board
Hmm.
without getting, totally specific. And then you go into specs for going out to seal bid. So during that time, you can massage this, right?
Oh, yeah, and it can be changed. And I'm not sure, I don't know if the budget numbers have been completely set yet. You?
It means 725?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So that's what I wanted to, so of course it's gonna be.
Too many of them, we'll pull a rabbit out of a hat.
So that's,
Another 100.
yes.
Yeah, because, each year, the bids come in, we expect,
Right.
things like that. So, and the 725, that's not my number, it was here when I came.
Yeah, it was,
But, it's really around $1 million, so, ups and downs, so.
We're calling this the 2022 capital improvement. What's the actual period of performance on doing the work?
So if we did, I guess I can give you a bit of a timeline. If we were to, the first step is gonna be, we authorize the projects, and then I proceed with doing the design, the field inspection. That'll take about a month, and then the board will have to accept our plans, basically, once we give those plans. So it's a month right there.
Yeah, May,
So that puts us about 2 months out, so around
Yeah.
June, May.
Yeah.
And the next one is getting a bid,
bid, right?
and then the bid will have to be accepted by the board. So that's about 3 board meetings right there.
It's 3-month period.
So it's about a
3-month bid and
Yeah,
then.
yeah, right.
Then you want to get it in before it rains.
September.
Yeah, this is more like a 6-month execution. Or maybe even
From
less.
start to finish, maybe even a little
Less
less.
than
I forget the exact
Yeah.
duration of our last slurry job. I'll have to look into the construction duration, but,
This is like 2 or 3 weeks worth of work, right? And
Yeah.
that's just, the actual work is going to be maybe 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
it's
minimal.
about
Yeah,
a month
it's
at a
minimal.
time.
The reason I'm asking is, if we're successful with the tax money, the gas tax money, when will we start to see that flow in? Would it impact this in any way?
If everything goes perfect, the way we want it to go, we would begin, in theory, getting a check from the county in July for maintenance money, okay? The rehab money comes in one lump sum for a year, starting July to the next June. So it'd be 22, 23. And there's a process that I've never done because this is that SB1. It was an add-on to the gas tax. And that you have to go through the County Transportation Commission. So you would do this process, whatever it might be. And then you submit to the Transportation Commission. They have staff and everything that looks everything over. And then is those commissioners award them.
Mhm.
If they don't award, you don't lose your money. It just means you got twice as much next year for a job that they will approve. My guess is we'll be doing overlays and that sort of thing, with that money. But we'll still have the money that we're talking about
Right,
here, so,
right.
you know, you could do some continue, finish slurry, and then do some overlays on, say, the primaries, for example. And see, those are the kind of things that I think, I haven't been through the process yet. You come in with an overlay and it's probably gonna get approved pretty easily. Okay? But if you're coming in and you're building fancy bridges with lights and junk like that, you're probably gonna get sidetracked.
Yeah.
That's my guess. So we'll have to, and hopefully we're gonna have this problem. What kind of things are gonna sell? And then there's that extra time. So, and then there's also the issue, and that's coming, Jeffrey's brought it up. Like, let's not get to spend this money too fast, just in case something goes wrong. Like the state changes, says you can't do that. So I'm guessing we probably won't be doing gas tax money. In terms of big projects, till 24. And we'll have $1 million in the bank or so, buying. Something like that, but then you're gonna have the finance side of this whole.
If you're concerned about whether or not we'd make the timeline for this year to get
Well, we
everything.
won't, well, it won't happen, because of the way the gas tax program works in the state. We're not a part of that until at best July 1st of this year. And, now the maintenance money, which is like 500 to 1,000, but we might double count the chickens. I kind of am, yeah, because what I'm thinking is, we've already got $1 million rehab money. And it's at least another 500,000 rehab, and then another 500 for maintenance. There's no reason why you can't take your, because we've got our maintenance covered, pretty much, okay? So I see most of that going into rehab, So maybe the first year you would have maybe 300 from the maintenance side, because that comes every month. Okay, that's to fund your road department, basically. Those monies should start coming in July, August, September. Well, that's gonna put, unless we were to make some change, which I can't foresee right now, in maintenance, that's just gonna be piling up. So this time next year, hopefully, we're gonna say, yeah, you got an extra 350 in maintenance money that you can use for rehab. So it's gonna slowly, build up. But
The reason I was questioning about that is to see if it made sense, if the probability was high enough of having some of that money available, if it made sense to have a contingency plan or additional roads might be done in the event that that money did come in time to apply it this year.
I don't think.
Going
Yeah,
back
I
to
don't think so.
the sooner you do it, the cheaper it's going to be.
Good point, yeah. But just what I'm seeing, the process of getting it through. Here's what's gonna happen. We really push on Jeffries, or I have on the staff level. And I'm told Jeffries gets it and it's on board, that we just need them to accept us into the county road maintenance system, okay, by May 1. And that
The
gives us.
sensitivity is there so that they can get the additional funds coming into their bank account.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can haggle and argue over, how they're gonna give it to us.
Right.
As time goes on. So we're gonna know really soon, in the next 60 days, whether or not the board of supervisors adopted that resolution. And that was one of those resolutions in your packet.
Yeah.
And we've already written it for them. And just, I was gonna tell you at the end of the meeting, when we're on the subject. Our Ryan Barron is our special counsel for this. The county council himself delegated that she, Riverside County, contact Ryan
Oh, right, okay.
and talk about this project because BB&K and him are saying, you know, they're in their legal opinion, that it can go through. They know each other. They have worked together. And when he was with Orange County and she was in Riverside County, so they worked on projects together. So they're meeting tomorrow on the phone.
So it's some built-in confidence there.
Yeah, they're not, you know, just meeting each other for the first time. And BBK Ward has spoken to the county council himself. So things are working along under the surface. So that's a good sign.
That is.
I'm holding my breath and I'm in a bad mood all the time because think
You
about
gotta
it.
stop doing that.
Yeah, I know, but it's slowly going
Yeah,
in the
Yeah,
right direction, so
very good.
that's the gas station.
Very good, very good. All right, very good.
Question, do all these streets, as an example, have a certain index right now that when you put the slurry seal or for some of these streets, a significant amount of patching or that kind of work that goes with it? Is that figured in?
So, you know, some roads are better candidate for the slurry than others. I try to target the 60 to 69 range, but it won't require heavy amounts of patching, but it'll still require some. So that's, you know, those are roads that are in need of repair. They're in what's considered, I believe, the poor condition. But again, as kind of Jim was saying, like this slurry is, you know, it fills in the cracks a lot of times. So a lot of that stuff we won't have to worry about too much R&R on. But that's, you know, that's when our field inspector will go out and he'll start marking everything down.
So that would be something that if they're soliciting input from other board members or neighbors, that would be a consideration as they say, well, that street over here is really bad. Well, yeah, that's, you know, 2 million to fix that. I mean, that's not a slurry seal job. They have to be in pretty decent condition with some cracks or some things to patch, but they can't just be destroyed. They get slurry won't do anything at that point. And you're talking big budget, it takes all of this, so.
Yeah, but if you do get an inquiry like that, you can go right to the map or even call me and you can see how much that would cost and, you know, why maybe that's not a good candidate or why maybe.
Yeah.
And but again, if you have any questions on that, I'm always available.
Is this by any chance on a PDF file?
I do have a PDF and I also, you can take those hard copies with you. And I can send
I'd like to, and I'd love to get the PDF so I can zoom in, given the state of my eyesight. It's-
I have trouble seeing it as well, but I will send an email to the whole group, just send them a PDF. I'll even add it to that box link so everything's in one spot.
There you go.
Okay, very good.
But no, that concludes my portion, I think, unless we have any questions or anything else we want to discuss on that. And I've thrown a lot of numbers at anybody, so again, I just want to say I'm always available to discuss anything that we talk about, so let me know.
Pretty straightforward. Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Steve,
Good evening.
traffic. Oh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, it's almost evening. All right. So we used our changeable message board out on Sandy Creek to let everybody know that the roads are open. And the next place we'll be putting it will be on Sandia Creek down south of Skyrocket in that long straight stretch where everybody seems to want to hit the pedal to the metal. Oh, and this is the fun one. So we've talked to the CHP about doing enforcement and stuff like that, and they've been out there.
Yes, I've heard. They've been doing a little write-up.
They're missing a few of the ones making the right turn on Bel Prado.
Well, they're working some speed right now, and they're greeting the newcomers, welcome back. And so, we also talked to them that you know that we're processing, you're in the process of doing other amendments and stuff like that. So they thanked us for keeping them apprised of that, and they'll be happy to follow up with that when that time comes. So the next request is and we had 2 requests that we were doing, we told you last month, we were putting together a staff report. Well, that report's done now, and you've got a
Right.
copy of that.
Yes.
So just, since you already have it and you probably have already read it, I'll just glaze over some of the highlights here on a couple of slides. So next slide. So, you know, we were tasked almost 4 years ago to look at the cut-through traffic and what can be done. We decided as a board that, you know, you were going to put in some stop signs. La Cruz was one of the locations that was considered at the time, because La Cruz had 4 accidents during that 10-year period that we studied. And of course, right in that area, Sandy Creek, this is where the speeds are the highest along that street in that segment. There's the map, and that kind of helps you see visually what we were looking at doing, is that if we could systematically put these stop signs in, we might be able to help discourage some of the cut through. Everything in red there, Chuck, is what was there before we started. And so you had these long uninterrupted stretches where you can just kind of fly through. Now you got to keep having that reset, everything like that. So this just kind of visually show how we got to where we are. And the thing was, we went out and updated the data here in 2021 in December, and we still have 2,600 vehicles a day at this location, and that's before reopening. So when we get the after counts, it'll be interesting to see what that does. You know, give it about 30 days here for it to settle down, and we're going to get out. And so we had, and 600 of those are coming through during just the 2 peak hours. And what that's going to happen is as the volumes rise, the gaps they get out on the side street are going to become less and less. Sight distance is not adequate for some of the upper speeds that we're recording. I went out there and did a sample on March 1st and stuff just to kind of see the number of cars that are exceeding, you know, well over the speed limit is to the point where now, okay, that's going to infringe on the available sight distance there. Of course, the street is littered with people who are unfamiliar with the area that they're cutting through via, you know, Waze or something else like that, or a friend told them to. And they're cutting through for one reason, because they're trying to make up time. So, you know, you have that complication. And then Cruz happens to be a 2.5 mile long road, one way in, one way out. So those people don't have an alternate choice and stuff. And so there's, you know, quite a bit of traffic that does go in and out of those properties. They're affected by this. So our recommendation would be is that you adopt and install an all-way stop Sandy Creek Cruz. That's the first request. Now, looking at second request by comparison, Scottos and Carancho, it has good sight distance. It has no delays. There's not much traffic out there at all. It has no accidents reported at this intersection. There's the volume comparison to show you. Sandy Creek 2,600, Carancho has 600. You know, there's Sandy Creek has 600 during the peak, and Carancho has 100 during the peak. So, you know, chances of even 2 cars getting at that intersection, one on the side street, one on the major street at the same time, is really fairly slim. There's just not that many cars out there, you know, for that. So it's pretty easy to negotiate and that just wait for the one car that does come by and go. So we're recommending that you would deny that request for always stop control and continue with what we're already doing, which is implementing a lower speed limit, bring it down from an unposted 55 to the 40 that's recommended. And then, of course, install the signs and notify enforcement as soon as that's ready to go. So the next project that we're working on is the speed limits, which you heard the first reading here at February. The second reading is coming up next week, and then it goes into effect 30 days thereafter. So we'll be out there enforcing and stuff. In the meantime, that's going to be prepared to have the signs put in throughout the month and stuff like that, so that when it comes effective, then we can turn everybody loose. And the final project we have that is ongoing is the before and after study of Sandia Creek and the reopening and the effect of the reopening and everything like that. So we have the data all collected back in December. 3 months later, we opened the road. We'll collect this data in April, so we give it time to kind of settle. And then we should be able to come back at your April, May meeting and give you the results and see what we want to do with that. So we had this other citizen request that we received about restricting Buenos Campos to eliminate any of the heavy cut-through traffic. Well, as we said, we anticipate that's going to go down significantly anyway, just because the road's open now. So we'll see what the effect of that is. And of course, if you restrict it on Buenos Campos, that would push everybody onto De Anza. So we'd have to certainly look at that and see if there's any benefits or whatever by doing that. So the recommendation at the next meeting, go ahead, Jessica. The recommendation at the last meeting was that we go ahead and wait till we reopen the streets and get those counts, and then we'll come back to you in April, May, kind of thing like that. kind of sort this one out too.
Right.
you know.
Okay.
And I would certainly let CHP and sheriff know about the term restriction up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was happening before too.
Oh, yes.
They think they can make up time and get ahead of the 3 cars that, it's kind of like a challenge,
And some of them do.
and some of them do, unfortunately, some we had. So, but that I'll answer any questions.
Speaking of the April meeting, we had planned that this report on the stop sign, with 2 stop signs would be at your next meeting. But we're gonna be 2 board members short.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is it's kind of playing out. All these traffic issues are gonna be in April and May. So if you don't object, could we just move this back to the cruise issue maybe to when we have a full board, which would be April?
Sure.
And it gives you a little more time to noodle over
Yeah.
this report that's, there, so I thought it was excellent.
Oh, no, definitely.
And, and that way, everybody can participate. Is that okay?
Oh, no.
Then I'm just gonna move that off. So just push that to those others that you just mentioned, that's, stop.
Yes, so do you want me to go ahead and still give the presentation and then delay it? Say it'll be delayed, or just not give the presentation and just say, well,
I'd say just delay,
okay,
because you're gonna confuse the people,
okay,
because they think they can speak, and then it's a month, they're not gonna act. I'd say have them all come that night, or whatever, at one time. But I don't think it really matters, but, I said, maybe we'll just have, April's gonna be the traffic.
okay.
Yeah.
And all the traffic items.
No, that's good.
All right.
Now, also, thank you very much for the information from your June 14, 2018, because that's when I sat on the road committee with everybody. So,
You're right. here.
we didn't get any of this information other than verbal. So it was good to look at it. I mean, obviously, you guys, that's loud and clear. Hopefully I wasn't too loud. But yeah, so it was interesting.
That was
Thank
my
you.
first meeting.
Yes, it was. Yes, it
I
was.
wanted to make a good impact.
Yes, and an excellent report here too as well. Very good.
So what we can do is let's put this report, on the next engineering.
Right.
That'll get it into the cycle for the April.
Sure.
And that way you'll have a month to kind of, talk to people, think about it.
Uh-huh.
And then we can,
Yeah.
just go through like we would normally do.
This is just a preview.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll bring it back next month with any other data that we have by then.
Very good. Okay, moving on. Bill report, Mr. Wyatt.
Just good. So the first thing I'm showing here is the detour that we just did our patching project on. It was completed by Nelson Paving Group. They're the same people that do a lot of work for Temecula as well as Retro Waters. Very reputable. So we chose a reputable source. This is a patch that we're doing on the edge of pavement, which has been fully removed. It's what they call a full depth patch. So it goes to the base of asphalt where they compact the native material, then they replace it. And as you can see in the photo, he's adding what's called tack. That's to adhere new asphalt to old asphalt. Next slide. This is some of the patching that we've done now on Buenos Campos. As you can see, it's looks nice, fresh. Definitely has stabilized the road. Next slide.
Probably a good slide to have when the slurry's done,
Yeah.
say before and after, show that.
Yeah. And as you can see here, a lot of the majority of the patchwork that was done was on the edge of pavement. It seemed like there was a lot of damage towards the edge of pavement, so that's where the majority of our work was centered. I think that that's it. The total, as I said before, was 2136, and it was done in 2 separate phases, and it's now complete. And if we can get the field report. And then this is just to touch on what photo one is already discussed. These are just some photos of the completed portion of Sandia Creek. And I got
You see how the slurry, there's no crack.
Hmm.
That's like a laugh, but.
I drove it before and after, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, you think that we overlay. it.
Gosh, we should put our handprints in some.
Yeah.
I ride a motorcycle, I try not to do that.
Oh, no. No, we don't want you doing that, please.
It's not intentional, yeah.
next slide. So this is the first photo on the left is the outlet portion, or the inlet portion of the pipe suite. And this is the completed, and obviously you can see the fence, there's the down drain, which is done really well. All the grading and all that looks really good. To the right is the outflow of water, pretty much identical to the other side. Completed, and it looks really good. And then this is just, this would be south of Buenos Campos because we went to the county line, of course. And it looks really good with the slurry and the striping. And as I mentioned last time, we had Rancho Waters had a water main that had broken on Calle Capistrano, which had forced a pretty large hole in one of our pipes. Can I get that last? And that's a project that we just completed this month. So that's actually Calle Capistrano that's going across Calle Capistrano. You can see how large of a void that was. It was pretty big. That's two separate pipes that were removed. And next slide, this is on Calle Capistrano. Here's us. We've already placed the bedding material in this picture, and now we're replacing pipe. We already set our grade, et cetera. And that's the new employees, CJ and Derek both there, setting those last two sections of pipe. And the next slide. Here is the inlet side, just to make sure that it had its final stability. We placed our version of in-place riprap, which is just the rock that was available to us. And we placed it to disperse some of that energy that water exerts. And then we also have concrete, which is a SAC2 slurry, very similar to what other projects have been completed throughout the district have used. It's just to hold the frontage of the pipes together, make sure that there's no deterioration, and hold the pipes in place. I think the highlights of this project that we definitely saved quite a bit of money. I had two separate just face-to-face quotes, and they were both around 30,000. We did it for just about 15. So we saved $13,000 just on this project. It was about 200 cubic yards of fill material and 8 yards of concrete slurry, which we had mixed by hand. Concrete is hard to get nowadays, so we could not get a truck. That was 160 feet that we replaced of copper. And these pipes, they actually, with this HDPE, it's got, the lifespan on these is incredible. There really isn't a lifespan on them. Maybe you can go 100 years. These things are really good to replace, especially smaller drains. Next slide. And this was after we were completed. This is the completed vision that you see where that big hole was. Rancho Water came back and used NPG, which is their same paving contractor, and they had paved it, and they will be coming back to strike that same area and put the RPMs in place.
I'll do it just as far as I keep on my history here. So here's the history on this. In the 43 years of existence, there are no photographs like this in the box. We've never done And that's our new group that has just a kind of a higher level of background in this kind of work. And so, we still have maintenance that needs to be done. And, but we'll be doing more of these projects, which is the budget work money, instead of being all contracted out. So when it's feasible, we can do it in-house. And
What also helps is that we had no pictures of any of these things in the past and showing how we're maintaining them. So when it came time to talk to FEMA,
Oh, absolutely.
they were like, oh, hell no, you know, so.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
But now we have,
Yes.
now we have
Yeah.
documentation here,
Yeah.
well, good documentation. Say,
Right.
hey, this is what we're doing, this is the program we're involved in. Dustin keeps great records of everyone that we're going through, you know, kind of stuff like that. So we're systematically addressing these as we can with the money that we have and stuff like that. And so if any of these ever wash out down the line, we're prepared to
Yeah.
collect back, you
Yeah.
know. This is in a great position besides just maintaining the road, you know.
Actually made a trip over to where Dustin and the crew were doing the work on the El Prado one. Great work. I had to go 10, 12 foot down my driveway to get there.
You didn't need to motorcycle.
Didn't need a motorcycle for that. This had been in bad repair for a long time. And they did a great job on fixing that.
Yeah, I definitely say one of the highlights is that this hopefully proves to not only you guys, the board, but also the district, that now we have a capable group that's capable of doing these projects in-house.
Yes.
And a little bit of peace of mind to the experience that we have doing them. I'll say that CJ and Jared both did a really great job. We had quite a bit of help from Curator Development. I worked closely with Cody to get a lot of these materials that we needed to complete these projects, because materials are hard to come by right now.
Yes.
So they did a really nice job helping us out with these. And it was purely this material. We did all the work. But I have to give them a shout out for that. But in the future, we can do these drain projects. We can do like actual asphalt repairs, things of that nature. And as Jim has said multiple times, it's less. We're trying to venture out a little further from being a concierge and more of a professional construction replacement. All these other government agencies, that's what they all do. And we're catching up to speed. So this project specifically, this 10-foot section of original culvert that was there, eroded and was washing out the down drain that was next to it and getting closer and closer to the roadway there where the excavator is sitting. And so we caught it before any damage occurred to the actual roadway itself. Next slide. So this is the finished product. The pipe has been put back. We replaced the down drain, as you can see. And it's going to last quite a long time. We restriped that little section right there. We only spent on this project about $1,800, and same thing, I got a quick little bids here and there. And everybody was quoting right around $8,000 to do something like that, especially with the inflation and everything. So we saved quite a bit on both of these projects, close to about $22,000. Next picture. And this is just the inlet portion of the pipe, same thing. So that's the AC down drain that we placed, and we used similar to a 2-sack slurry that went around the inlet of the pipe to stabilize it and prevent any sort of deterioration like that occurred before. And that's it. Coming up, obviously, right now, we're just doing our basic maintenance. We just replaced our teeth on our mower. So we're out in force mowing right now, cleaning up some of those weeds and that vegetation on the edge of the roadways. Hopefully soon we can do a couple small patching projects that need to be done. And we're continuing with basic maintenance.
Well done. Just a little history in terms of Steve and Jim. Over the last almost 2 years, they've been working to get us in this direction here. And
Yeah, I've been sitting, looking at that bad culvert for 5 years and,
yeah,
you know.
but building up to this point, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Great
been
work, and
Yeah,
I would expect to see the capability increase over time.
absolutely.
Right up. Glad you got a chance to see it, especially right out there.
Well done. Tell your guys, thank you very much.
How are the new grants working out?
No, they're both doing great. They both had a lot of value to the district experience that,
Obviously.
yeah,
Most
more
of
of
us.
my experience on more of actual construction projects. I have a history of background in underground construction, stuff like that a lot, like what we just did with Sandia Creek. So kicking off on some of these projects has been a blessing. Thank you for letting me demonstrate to you guys that I'm capable of doing it. Hopefully, like I said, I hope that this eases everyone's minds that the fact that we can.
This is what the community's been looking for too.
Yeah.
So this is great. Great job. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Jim.
No, I reported where we're at on the gas tax initiative. I think I don't have anything additional. We're just kind of waiting and wait and see mode. As far as what you've heard today, I guess, does the committee feel that this is the way you prefer to proceed, or do you want to look at it again in a month, or what are you going to report to the board, I guess? Where are you at? You've kind of had a lot to absorb in 2 hours. And
Well, really,
it's your-
the thing to report right now is great success on several fronts, so it's a good time to put in any bad news. But I don't see a whole lot of bad news here. Things are going well. The traffic issues obviously are at hand, and we need to deal with those. But the only issues that I see right now are for us to provide the budget necessary for the work to get done. And of course, the tax money is the key to that.
So we've got a project to do this summer. The recommendation would be to do the slurry.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
If you want to look at it, I'm kind of getting you prepared for your presentation from now. Whether you're going to present to the board that this looks like a good project and we should go on into a design of this so we can get bids, or you could say to the board, we're looking at it and we're going to look one more month and then we could put it on April. So it's up to you. I mean.
Only, for me, number one, my initial reaction is I like what I see. I think it is what we need to be doing. I would like to touch base with some of the residents, like Eddie Rodriguez will bring up roads and things of that nature. I think this is something that these guys would like to take a look at.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think it gives them an opportunity to say, well, what about this? Or what about that? Just like, Ron was just mentioning, so it's just a.
So then maybe this should be more along the lines of some board action in April, not a week from now. So your report this time would be, we're working with Ron, so you could just maybe give a little capsule of this, and then indicate to the other board members we've done maps for them, and that this is the kind of thing that the engineering committee is doing. But then plan for some board decision in April.
Right,
And
absolutely.
then you go into design, and so that we have maybe a bid proposal in May. Would that work?
Yeah, I think if we had authorization in April, we would have plans for the board to approve in May. And then June would be authorization.
Could we get that and go out to bid in May?
I think that, yeah, and then June would be when we started,
June, we would be out to bid, so there wouldn't be any action.
Yeah, and
And
then
then July, hopefully,
accepting the bid.
you could award the contract, and then another 30 days.
So I figured September. That's
Okay,
kind of like,
so-
at
so
least
that
in my
works.
mind,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just looking at the dates and stuff like that. But before I turn it over to Chuck, definitely board member Gina, because Gina is so familiar with the roads up here, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, property and so on and so forth, to give her an opportunity as well to provide her input. I think she'll have something to add to that. Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that any of this has a fixed timeline that has to be met. Some of the traffic things, particularly that one stop sign where we're seeing the significant traffic and the dangers that go along with it. We need to act on more quickly, but I'm developing a lot of confidence in staff and the ability to do the work and the ability to look at what needs to be done. I think our role, for the most part, is on the interface from the community in deciding where the resources go and then staff determining how to go execute that. And so from the standpoint of what the plans are, I see no reason to object to any of it. I don't see a reason at this point to delve into what the history is or why those are the decisions. That's the staff's job to do that, to see where the problems are and come up with the recommendations of what to do. As we get more done and develop more confidence, I think our role really becomes more of a background task. And to me, the organization has done a great job of taking the resources we have, applying it to the problems at hand and making the best use of it. So I don't have a reason to try to sway a decision one way or the other in the form of a timeline, but I think there may be some community members that would want to sway a decision one way or the other, particularly on the making sure the work gets done on the detour route that was
Yes.
damaged. And it's hard for an engineer to say, hey, I don't need to know about that, but I really don't feel like I do, but you got, I've seen the crew work, I've seen the planning that went into it.
Right.
I think from my standpoint, I would like to look a little more into the planning tools to understand the bidding process and that sort of thing. And I've gotten quite a bit of feedback on that now already. But I would like to see some of the actual tools themselves that are being used, whether it's a spreadsheet or some combination of project and spreadsheets or whatever it is. I've seen the PDFs and that's great, but you don't see what's going on behind.
Mhm. Yeah, and this, all this is one giant spreadsheet turned into, that's GIS, so it's
Yeah,
just one giant
exactly.
table that geospatially shown to you, so that there was a table of data behind every one of those numbers. So,
Yeah, I'm thinking a little bit in terms of the bid sheets to better understand the bidding process. It's great to end up with money left over at the end of a project. It's not so good not to know why you have the money at the end of the project.
no, I agree.
So
True.
I'd like to look a little more into that just from an engineering management standpoint.
And something I can do, just to, I don't wanna say ease your mind, but something we've done in the past, and we did this on the last slurry job, is so let's say we decided this was the right plan set to do, we put these quantities in the bid.
All right.
What we always do, just in case these bids come in low, is we put an alternate bid.
Mhm.
And that'll say, we don't have specific streets chosen for this one, but let's just put 200 tons of slurry in there. So if we realize, oh man, this guy's bid came out to 600, well, we have an extra $100,000. We don't want to have to go rebid that. So what we do is we have that alternate in there.
Yeah.
And that allows us the flexibility to just go right ahead with anything and just say, all right, these were the net priority 2 streets here. Let's just get those added into the project. And we add that into the contract at no additional cost. So that's what gives us the flexibility of being able to just jump right in.
Well, what's at the background of a little of that request is I looked at the PDFs of the data, the files that generated it for the Via Vaquero and the Sandia Creek jobs. And one of the things I saw is that the rates that were used for an item in one didn't match the rates that were used on the other.
Yeah.
And you would expect that those would be pretty close to the same.
Yeah, and that's the strange thing in construction. So the way bid items work is, the contractor bids each schedule specifically, and it really is adjusted, and they have their own estimated tools that
Right.
kind of throw us in, and it's all based on the quantity. So if you have a higher quantity in one schedule, then that price goes down. And then what we do to make our slurry jobs better is we lump all the sites as one kind of thing. And that means their quantity is so higher, and that's how we got the low price of striping and slurry.
Yeah.
Last year, we lumped everything together as one. For Sandia Creek, we couldn't do that because the way FEMA identifies this project is two separate projects. And for the FEMA closeout, we have to do one project here, even though it was bid the same, it's still two separate projects in
Yeah.
FEMA's eye. So there's a lot of background stuff, and I love talking about this stuff, so I can talk about it for days, but I want to take all your days here. But that's kind of, there's a lot behind it, behind the curtain that I can try and peel back the curtain as much as possible to help you on that.
Yeah, I'd
So-
just like to have a look and see. I've done engineering estimates for 50 years, and it's very possible to have a number and meet that number.
Mhm.
And you just tweak numbers to get there. And I know that happens,
Yeah.
but I'd still like to see what the kind of the basis is. And so that as we make decisions going forward, I've got more confidence in the decision I'm making. It's more familiarization for me than it is questioning the ability of state.
No, I can put together kind of a quick like memo or something that shows like, where we get our standard bid prices from, like we usually use Caltrans and all stuff like that.
I'm not looking for a lot of that. I do like to look at the tools and the details of what's inside to see how those are being used, how manipulable they are, and how they're
Okay.
being used to come up with the numbers.
Yeah, so I can give a.
By the way, I'm not complaining because we've got an extra 20K left over at the end of that.
That's always good, but no, that's good. I'm glad to hear that you want to see what goes into it all. So I will put something together and try and give you maybe a little back and forth to make sure I fully understand, what you're looking at. But
Yeah.
I'll just give you everything I can, and we'll go from there.
Don't do a lot of extra work.
Yeah,
I'll
and
do-
that would be great because we are going to be making that transition here in terms of our roles. So my last appearance here will be in May, and then Gina will come in and he's going to be the chairperson
Okay.
for the committee. So yeah, so that's why I was also thinking about Gina, making sure that, she's got a good understanding of this and an opportunity to put some feelers out, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
This is the first time I saw this list. And I was just reading through and I was like, boy, he's thinking along the same lines I am. That you got almost 80% of the money going to streets that are what I call high profile.
No, I've got to remind, you put a report together, and I'm trying to remember when, but that was the first thing that came into my mind when we were talking about the fair, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. So it's like, you have Carancho, which is a major street that, in the community, you're getting a large portion of that one story. You've got El Prado South, which took a beating here over the last few years, and now it's a chance to restore it right next to the one that we just restored. You got Avenida del Oro, which is our northerly entrance, and you just finished off the southerly entrance, and now both ways coming in and out. And that thing takes over 3,000 cars a day, so it's addressing that. And so I just think that this is a pretty good plan here. So, I was trying to look and see, is there something I'm thinking out loud, but, with my familiarity with it, that I would substitute or take away. But,
Right.
when you look at each individual zone, you're trying to capture spending it just the right amount in each zone and things like that.
Okay.
This is a really nice balance. It really addresses a lot. And I think the community is going to like it because it's taking care of a lot of those high profile areas that.
Yeah.
See.
So that happens when your traffic engineer gives you a full list of how many cars use each road. I definitely use this, and I was picking up some of the, I'm making sure that.
Yeah, that was
So yeah, it's a team effort, and we're all working together here, so.
It's good, it's a nice plan.
Did we even answer your question?
You did, yeah.
Oh.
So we're gonna- I guess, yeah, we're gonna report on this.
Right,
So the other
right,
boards know this.
right,
Even though this meeting, the only different one is Robert, because two are gone.
yes,
But anyway, they will,
Yes.
they will watch the tape,
Yes.
I know.
yes,
And then, they'll have the plans and everything, they'll have a month to know what's coming.
exactly.
We'll do one more review here at this meeting and then present in April,
In April.
and then let the process begin.
So I'm clear for the board meeting, so this sheet right here, I'm not gonna present that sheet, because we don't wanna have the exact plan, because you want your time to look at it before we present that.
Yes.
So I will just show the overview with how much money we're thinking, and just kind of that Sandy Creek side, so I'll take anything that has specific information out of it.
Okay, very good. Very good.
And when you come back in April, will you be coming back with a, what do you call it, scope of work?
That's great, yeah, we'll be coming back with just the
With this-
final version of
yeah.
this.
I mean, will it
This
be
could
one
be
that they
it.
will approve, or can they approve the April meeting? Can they approve a scope of work so that he can then put together the plans and specs and stuff
We
accordingly?
can do that.
That's what we would do.
Save a month.
Yeah, because we'll be meeting the week before. Yeah, take a
So-
look at that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to get approval to.
You're talking about this month's approval or no, in April? Yeah, that's the plan. So yeah, obviously I need to know the exact roads before I start the design, which I think we have a good plan on here. So if we authorize those in April, the design will be done within.
There's an extra month of warm weather to use. If we get too late in October, November, you could get.
Yeah, you can't use the money until July anyway, so.
That's what I was thinking.
We
So,
can't use the money until July anyway, so we got approval before then.
Surrey,
Yeah.
Surrey has to be over 50 degrees to put down concrete, so.
Yeah.
That's tough when it gets closer to winter, you know. Stay away, so.
Is there any trend that you're seeing on the materials? Is any of it getting better, or is it all getting?
Well, right now, we're having a bad time as far
I was
as
gonna say
construction
everything's bad.
materials. And, you know, construction, it always goes up year by year. Right now, the inflation, I mean, I'm sure you read the news, I mean, the inflation is insane right now. And we're seeing steel prices up 250%. We're seeing landscaping prices up about 200. You know, asphalt, as you know, asphalt and oil gas prices are usually hand in hand.
Yeah.
That's going higher. And, you know, that's somewhat included in these numbers, but if I could tell you that I was an economic genius, I'm not gonna sit there. No, I just go off the data that I've seen. Tomorrow it could be completely different.
Yeah.
It's just been a very volatile market right now, but we've used all the data that we have available to us as current as we can get. And that's what these numbers are made out of, basically. But again, you know, Dustin kind of touched on it, it's going, gas is going up, asphalt's going up. I mean, it's a tough time. We even seen this in San Diego Creek when they had the shortage of materials for the pipe. And as you can see, like you work with them, Marietta knows, they know the people to talk to. There's just nothing out there. It's just a shortage. It's a hard truth. But you know, we can work with what we have. And,
May not hurt to make a point of that in the course of the board meeting,
Of
that
course,
our estimates are risky at best in some cases because of the steep slope of the impact of inflation on our
Yeah.
oil.
and that's why it's tough to estimate these projects always. But, you know, we put these contingencies in like for extra, like the extra slurry. We put extra. We give ourselves the flexibility. So because that's what, you know, well, then we've seen this for many years when we see this. So we put as many flexibility areas that we can do, and we adjust based on what the market tells us. So
The other thing that's nice is you're not trying to do 50 streets or 60 locations, you know, you're trying to do 8 or 10. So that's going to help bring the cost down, I would assume, because the contractor's just working in one area and that he's not having to pick up and move, go do a little bit here, then you got to pick up and move it, you know, that there's a lot of time doing that kind of stuff. So, you know, this keeps it short and simple.
Very good. I think we've covered everything. Have we saved the world, the economy?
One day at a time.
All righty, thank you very much, gentlemen. This
I
is
had dollars a barrel a couple of weeks ago to 130 today.
That's what's going on. And yeah, these maps are all for,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
take that, so.
So the no-brainer, could you, have, those three people zoom into our board meeting? Yeah, of course, this is the grand celebration of